Good evening, good evening, good evening. I just want to thank you all for being here tonight. It says a lot that you want to create safe spaces for your children within the schools and the communities, and that you really have a desire to be trauma informed. Go ahead and give yourselves a round of applause for that. That is a big deal. I want to first start by introducing myself. My name is Nicole Samuel. I'm a second year clinical social worker at Liberty University, and I've been sent here tonight to talk to you guys about being trauma informed. Are we ready? Let's go. So, the first thing I want to talk about, because I know you guys may be questioning, what can I do as a parent, as a teacher, as a friend, as a principal, as an administrator? What can I do to be trauma informed? And the first notion I want to go on and kick out the door is that you have to have some type of credential, some type of degree, some type of certification to be trauma informed. That is not true. You so do not need it. But I want you guys to know that it takes a village, to be trauma informed, to understand trauma, how to resolve it, how to prevent it. And the more we know about being trauma informed, the more proactive we can be to prevent it and to stop the traumatization or the re-traumatization of an individual. Now, what the first thing we need to know is what causes trauma, like what creates these type of issues in individuals. And there are these things called adverse childhood experiences, also known as ACEs. ACEs are anything like physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, being verbally abused. If somebody was sexually touched in their childhood by a parent, if anyone who was like 5 years or older, or had some type of authority over an individual, and they humiliated them, they deliberately neglected them, didn't feed them, didn't take the time to really nurture them. These things cause trauma in individuals. Even being molested, even being talked down to, or down to being called out of your name. These things are considered ACEs. There are 1 in 6 adults who have experienced 4 or more ACEs, right? And out of the top 10 leading causes of death, 5 of them are related to adverse childhood experiences. Imagine how healthy we could become as a society, as individuals, if we can prevent adverse childhood experiences from occurring. So I need us to understand the effects of trauma and what it looks like and how it shows up in individuals who have experienced ACEs, right? So you'll see things like they have difficulty focusing, they have difficulty paying attention, concentrating, they may be hyperactive, they may be hyper vigilant because of the anxiety that trauma may cause. It may also show up as somebody who socially isolates themselves, right? So if you see an extreme behavior, a child was behaving one particular way, and then a traumatic event happens, and then their behavior does a 180. All of these things are symptoms that an adverse childhood experience has occurred. So it's important as an administrator, a principal, a teacher, as an individual of the community to be very observant, because we can misnomer a child as being a troublemaker or being troubled or having developmental delays. And the truth of the matter is they have experienced a traumatic event that is curating these behaviors. So we just want to be super mindful when it comes to labeling children as difficult or troublemakers, when the fact of the matter is there's a chance that this child has experienced an ACE, which is an adverse childhood experience. Remember, it's the physical abuse, it's the mental abuse, it's the emotional abuse, even being sexually abused, as we know, creates these behaviors in individuals. And so we just want to be mindful of that, right? And I want you guys to know that when children experience an adverse childhood experience, that they have a tendency to develop long-term health effects over the years. As they matriculate through adulthood, they could run the risk of having cancer, developing asthma, even developing diabetes. So it is important to be trauma informed and do what we can to prevent trauma so we could lower the risk of these comorbidities or children having more than one long-term chronic health issue throughout their lifespan, right? And so more than 500,000 childhood abuse cases are reported in America, and about 3,000 of them happen in Virginia per year. I want you to know that is a really large number. Over 500,000 children are on report as being abused either physically, emotionally, or mentally. And so I want us to take into consideration, right? What can we do as individuals to stop or mitigate or prevent abuse from happening? The first thing we ought to do, we ought to create an environment of trauma-informed care. And how we do that is by instituting some of the principles that come along with being trauma-informed. And the first one I want to address is safety. When an individual has experienced trauma or a traumatic event, it automatically creates a sense of fear of being not in a safe environment. It violates our safety. We don't believe that we are safe anymore. We don't believe that we are protected anymore when we experience trauma. So as teachers, as administrators, as principals, as people of the community, we should strive to create safe environments for our children. Now, how do we create safe environments? It looks like asking children, hey, what are you feeling? What are you thinking about today? When you see a child acting out, hey, do you have something else going on outside of this one particular situation? Because sometimes those who have experienced trauma, they may come off as being aggressors or aggressive, when the truth of the matter is they're struggling to communicate the violation that has taken place. And so it's manifesting and exemplifying itself as anger or aggression. And the truth of the matter is they've been hurt in a very fundamental place. So if we begin to create an environment of safety for our children, where they feel like they can come to us and talk to us about what's going on with them without being judged, without feeling like they're going to get in trouble for saying what they have going on and their feelings and their emotions, it's very important that a child has a trusted individual that they can come to when they experience harmful situations, where they can find compassion and care and kindness and find that center of safety and protection again. And sometimes it's difficult for a child to find that in their home, particularly when the trauma or the traumatic event happened with their parent or happened with their caretaker or even their siblings. Like, we have to think beyond ourselves or beyond the behavior and really get to the root of what's taking place. And it doesn't need to only be an environment of safety for the child. It needs to be an environment of safety for an employee or for a fellow teacher or for a principal or for an administrator. Create a level of camaraderie and a culture that allows all individuals who take part to feel safe, right? And so that's very important when we're talking about being trauma informed. Is, do we have an environment of safety where an individual feels free to express themselves without consequence, without judgment, without being torn down or invalidating their experience? It's very important that we create environments that look like that. And so another thing that we can do to be trauma informed is create an environment of trust and transparency. I know oftentimes as adults, we don't feel a need to explain why things have to be the way they are to children, but you will get much more cooperation, a lot more unity, and things would function in tandem smoothly if we sometimes just take that extra moment and explain to that child, hey, this is why we have to do these things a particular way. And as adults, I know we like to come off as thinking we know it all, but if we take the time to really just be honest and transparent and say, hey, I don't know why, but give me a second and I'll get back to you and I'll look up the reason why we have to put these types of preventions in place in order for the environment to be healthy, right? And I think sometimes we as adults maybe become a little frustrated with having to explain, because you should just instinctively know as a child, I'm looking out for your best interest. Well, all children don't understand that. Specifically, if they've been violated by an adult, their identity, the way they view authority could possibly be skewed by that trauma. So we have to take an extra step and learn how to create a trusting and transparent environment for our children in order for them to be able to voice any concerns or to be able to feel safe to disclose that they have been violated on any one of those levels, be it physically, mentally, emotionally, and even sexually, right? And so I want to get to some things we can do and put in place to make sure we create a trauma informed environment. We can do things like develop support groups after school for children who may just need an outlet to get out what's on their heart, to get out what's going on in their soul space, right? And so that could be one way to create a trauma informed environment and to provide trauma informed services. And not only for children, if the teachers feel like they need to develop a support group for one another where they can come in and say, this happened in school today and this happened in my class and I saw this with this individual. Maybe we need to keep an eye out on little John because I saw XYZ. These types of things, if we put these things in place, it will help us to create an environment of being trauma informed and be able to facilitate the care that our children really need when it comes to their trauma and the things that they may be experiencing in and out of school. And even if you want to open it up to the community, that's even an option, that you pick one night out of the month where we hold like town hall meetings and we can come in and express our concerns, express what we see, express what we have going on. I think that would be a really effective way to help institute a trauma-informed environment, right? If we create support groups for one another where we can come in and feel safe and not feel humiliated or feel like our experiences won't be validated. We just get in here and say how we feel and really look out for one another as far as being trauma-informed and helping out our children. And see, when the children see the adults doing it, expressing themselves in a healthy way, it'll let our children know that this is a safe place, that they're safe to express what they have going on with themselves. We have to take the time to model the behavior we want to see in our children as adults, right? And so being trauma informed first starts with who? It starts with us, right? We have to be honest with ourselves. We have to create safe spaces for ourselves so we can then do it for others and model it for our children, all right? I thank you for your time. I thank you for being here tonight. Once again, give yourselves a round of applause for being present and wanting to learn about being trauma informed. Once again, my name is Nicole Samuel. I'm a second-year clinical social work student with Liberty University, and I thank you so much for coming out tonight.